So Dennis Schröder has now played 13 games for the Warriors. It's no secret I was very excited when we acquired Schröder, and when you consider what they gave up to get him, it seemed like a no-brainer type of move. And defensively, he's come as advertised. I think his ability to pressure the ball has allowed us to press teams, pick up full court presses, stay attached. He communicates. He's a little demon of a defender. I like what he does on that end. Now, offensively, one of the stats that you heard when he was traded from the Nets was he plays at the slowest pace. And you heard the Nets coach say, hey, now that Ben Simmons is our point guard, we want to play faster. We got to play faster. And, from a distance, casually watching Dennis Schröder, you think of him as so quick, right? He's such a quick, twitchy player. You don't think of him playing slow. But now that we have a big enough sample size with him in this Warriors team, the pace is an issue, right? And it was such a contrast watching those Pacer guards last night, Halliburton, McConnell, Nembhard, all of them play with such pace. And Halliburton, his game, it's completely predicated on taking advantage of whatever advantage is created by the pace of the offense, right? If a guy has a long closeout, or there's a screen and the guy tries to shoot over the top, you reject it, right? His whole game, he's very good at playing the game of basketball because he's not going to just beat you with his physical attributes. And Schröder is almost the polar opposite. He makes things more difficult than they need to be offensively because he waits for the defense to get set. He never takes advantage of pace or a long closeout or anything. He wants to come down, make sure everything is set up, and play this methodical game. And the Warriors don't have the personnel to do that, right? It'd be one thing if you had these guys that could do that, and it's hurting the offense. And then when he doesn't take advantage and he wants to play slow, he's not being aggressive looking for his zone enough, right? And so it hasn't been a great fit offensively, unfortunately, through these first 13 games. The other thing that I've noticed with him is he tries to take these sneaky threes, right? And I get he's trying to find a rhythm and when to take his shot, but he doesn't get his eyes to the rim on time. If you watch, a lot of his threes he's like looking one way or he looks one way and then he tries to sneak up the three. And me watching the tape of all these games, I'm like, he's not getting his eyes to the rim on time. And that's why he's not shooting it as well as you would hope for. But it kind of is what it is, right? Schröder at this point in his career is who he is. He's a pick and roll guy. But the game of basketball, like you watched Pat Spencer have a career high last night with 17 points, all just out of the created advantage of the flow and the pace of the game. Like, a guy doesn't step up to the screen in time, let me turn the corner and push it, right? Or get out and use pace and just find these advantages that are naturally created, these little windows, but you have to recognize them and you have to use them. And Schröder doesn't use them. I don't even know if he recognizes them or not, but he doesn't use them. He wants everything to be on his own time. And if he's going to play that way, he's got to be more aggressive himself offensively, especially when Steph is sitting out games, right? He's got to look for his because you want to slow down and play at your own pace, but then yet you're still looking for the pin downs and the motion offense. It doesn't work that way. Half of that motion offense is the pace, right? And so I'm not here to say that I'm ready to give up on Schröder, but I think at this point now we can acknowledge, because right, the first 10 games or so, you say, all right, well, he's getting acclimated. I'm driving you all crazy with this wire again, aren't I? But now, again, we've seen enough where it's like, it kind of doesn't fit, right? Like the way, how slow he wants to play and not taking like if someone swings him the ball on the wing and there's like a closeout, right? You'd say, okay, like catch it and rip through, right? Catch it, pump fake and go downhill or quickly take the shot. He doesn't do that. He doesn't take advantage of the advantages that are created just naturally within the flow of the game. And that's kind of the Warriors system. Now, you might push back and say, all right, we need a guy that can play a different way in contrast to that. Fine. But I think you've got to put different personnel around him, and he's got to look for his own shot more often. That brings me to Quentin Post. We got a little Quentin Post cameo last night, little pick and pop three, right? And, defense is going to be the question. How does he move laterally in pick and rolls and north-south? And what I'll say is he looked a little better keeping his feet moving. When you're slow-footed, You've got to keep your feet moving. Once your feet come to a standstill, it's over for you. And he seems to grasp that concept, so that's encouraging. And then he did hit the three, right? But all this talk about acquiring Vucevic or acquiring a stretch big, I'm not saying Quentin Post is the answer, but when we are as depleted as we have been with this roster and some of these games where you're kind of like, we ain't going to win them anyway, why not roll him out there so at least in theory we can see what it looks like with a stretch big out there before you make the move, before you invest in Vucevic or whoever it may be. Like, hey, let's see in theory what that does. Because I'm curious, and you heard Kerr was he kind of low-key promoting for the trade? He was like, hey, you see what a stretch big can do? Yeah, I like it, right? So I like seeing him out there, and I don't see why he can't get some spot minutes. He's 24 years old. They didn't draft him as a project. They drafted him, I think, as a situational big for right now, and they just haven't used him really at all yet. So we'll see how that goes. But how y'all feeling about Schröder? I think we all see it, right? That offensively, specifically, the fit in his pace doesn't seem to match. Maybe with a Vucevic in there, it looks a lot better, right? There's that. But I'm not saying give up on him yet, but I will bring up the point. When we did make the trade, there was a little side note at the bottom of the news, like, hey, he can be retraded, a couple days before the trade deadline. One of the reasons they made the trade when they did was it makes him eligible to be flipped again before the deadline this year. And so that's a possibility. I feel like everybody's on the block. Buddy, Mo, all of them, right? But all in all, I wasn't even mad at the effort last night. The Pacers kind of played with their food and coasted the whole time. It probably was never as close as the score appeared. But I liked the effort, and I like seeing Gee, Pat Spencer, and these guys, Quentin Post, get a little look at him in a game with, let's be honest, even if we had the vets, probably weren't going to beat the Pacers anyway on the back end of a back-to-back. And so they moved to Toronto on Monday. Steph and Draymond should be back. Does Wiggins fly in? Pods and GP2 set to return. It looks like we'll have a much fuller roster. And now we can start to complain about the rotations and minutes again, right? Y'all enjoy the weekend. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.